Welcome to the town hall on strategic plan. We've got people here in the audience here at the police department building and the council chambers, and then also those of you watching on Facebook online. So the intent here is to make this a town hall. So if you have questions in the audience, feel free to flag me down. If you're on Facebook, I will try to monitor the comments as well so that I can answer those questions. My intent is to share with you the strategic plan, but also it's a town hall. So if you have a question about something that's even not related to the strategic plan, try to keep that available as well. I'm trying to make sure I can see the comments, and I'm doing something wrong because I can see the video, but not the comments yet. Give me a second while I work out my technical difficulties. I guess somebody else pay attention to that too. I'll try to keep an eye on it. So the strategic plan was passed by the city council, which we have a couple of council members here in the audience as well. We have the mayor pro tem, Jerry Kaler from District 1 over there. We've got a council member from District 2, Councilmember Kent Edmondson, and a council member from District 3, Councilmember Nick Bremmel. So they're here as well. So if I get any really hard questions I don't know the answers to, I'll just turn it over to one of them. But also, the city council passed a strategic plan last month, and it was a result of a 10-month program, a 10-month process, where we really took a lot of intentional effort to get feedback from residents, feedback from business owners, feedback from HOAs and stakeholders in the community, and then also from city staff and administration and the elected officials, all trying to make sure we have a good reflection from the community of what you want the city to look like for the next 3 to 5 years, especially. And so government likes plans, and it's not just because we like spending money on plans. It's because it allows us to have confidence that the decisions that we're making as elected officials, the decisions that staff is implementing, are a true reflection of what it is you as residents want in the community. And so the 7 of us can just get together and make decisions. But if we want to make them well and we want to do it in a way that the residents want, then we have a process like this where we have feedback from multiple individuals, multiple stakeholders, and we want to make sure you have an expectation of what we're going to do, and then you can hold us accountable to actually do it. And so that's the next thing, is what is a strategic plan? So it is a document. We have physical copies. If you're not here in person, you can pick up some of these at City Hall. You can probably pick some here up at the police department. These are physical copies of the document that have a reflection of the strategic priorities, have a reflection of the objectives within those priorities, a reflection of the actual performance measures that we hope to utilize with each one of those individually. And so if you want the physical document, you can have that. It'll probably be on the website as well. And so you can find a way to check that out. But it's more than just a document. It's a plan that we can use to make those decisions strategically. It's something that guides our decision making. But more than that, it's an accountability document as well. If we're telling you as the residents we're going to do these things, you can hold us accountable to see specifically if we've actually accomplished those. So for the next year or 2 or 5, we have metrics in this document that you can check in a year from now and say, you said you were going to have this done by September of 2026. Have you done it? And if not, why? And we should have a pretty good answer for you. So one of those questions, or one of those things that as we're having questions here tonight is, it may be something that's not in the strategic plan, but if we've done our job right, hopefully everything that you have questions about are reflected in the strategic plan for the next few years, because that's what we're hoping to achieve. So besides being a document and a strategy moving forward, it's also just a reflection, and we want to make sure we grow in a smart and meaningful way. So usually as a community, as a city, we're either growing or we're declining. So we want to A, make sure we're growing, and B, we're making sure we're growing in a way that makes sense, growing in a way that's smart, growing in a way that's reflective of you as residents. And so again, we have the city that looks like how you want it to look. And so these strategic priorities, these goals and objectives were a culmination of that 10-month process. We whittled down all of the comments you put on the website, the the Point website, all the comments we got from the community meetings we have, all the comments we got from staff and residents, and we whittled them down to these 6 strategic priorities that we think are the main things we heard you tell us you want the city to achieve over the next few years. And so we're going to go through those. Well, let's hit the mission and vision statement here first. So in addition to the strategic plan and strategic priorities, we also want to know why it is the city exists. So the city is more than just boundaries. It's more than just city limits. It's an organization as well. And so we have to make sure the organization of the city is reflecting what you as residents are expecting when you need services. And so we need to know what it is we do, what it is we exist, and then what it is we're trying to achieve in the future as well. And so that's where these 2 things. Now, I've been a member of this organization. I was on the city council for 14 years. I've been mayor for a year and a half. So for 15 plus years, I've been related to this organization. I couldn't tell you a single time what our previous mission statement was. So it wasn't that important. And we hope to change that with this document as well. We spend a lot of time hearing from the community what you want. And so we want to be intentional about connecting those things that we do in the future to this mission statement. And then same thing with our vision statement. What is it we're trying to achieve? What it is we hope to accomplish? And so we want that to look the same as well. So I'm going to read this verbatim so I don't get it wrong. The city provides services that promote a safe and welcoming environment, support sustainable growth, and strengthen community for today and tomorrow. So what we're saying is the city exists. What it is we do, why we are here, is to do 3 main things. We want to promote a safe and welcoming environment. We want to support sustainable growth, and we want to strengthen the community in some way. So you can think about a parks department or a police department or a planning department is reflected in this in some way. The parks department, if they build a park that's welcoming to all, they're promoting a welcoming environment. If you have a good program that people enjoy, that strengthens the community. Things like the Brew to Brew run that's happening this Saturday. That's kind of a fun thing to do. That's gives people an opportunity to connect to the community in a fun way. And so that strengthens the community moving forward. So that's what we intend, whatever it is that the city does as an organization, it's going to do one of those 3 things. And then as a vision statement is, then what is it we're kind of trying to achieve? What's the looking forward? And what is the principle that guides us when we look forward? So the vision statement is that Blue Springs is a growing community with the heart of a small town, driven by big opportunities and a commitment to a high quality of life for all. So we, again, we hope that we continue to grow. We're going to see opportunities as we grow. So we want to reach out and participate in those opportunities. And as we do it, we want to make sure we don't lose sight of making sure everything's done in a quality way. And so for you as residents, you can expect us to do those things, to take advantage of opportunities and do them in a quality way. Whatever decision it is, whether we're downtown or growth in housing, growth in retail, that's what we expect to be our kind of guiding principle moving forward. So we, again, whittled down to these 6 core strategic priorities, the focus areas that we heard residents say we should be focused on. And so I'm just going to list them real quick, and then we're going to go through them individually. Let me pause for a second here, see if any of you here in the audience or on Facebook have any questions. How are you feeling so far? I still don't see questions on Facebook. Does anybody see them? No. Okay. No comments. Oh, I see it now. Okay. I see no comments yet. So that's the exact words that you use. So they're there. Okay. So these are the 6 strategic priorities. So first of all, downtown revitalization. There are several, I know, downtown supportive people here in the audience. But that, if you've been a part of Blue Springs, if you lived in Blue Springs or you've worked in Blue Springs for very long, you know that downtown has got a lot of attention over the past 30, 40 plus years. Every strategic plan, I went back to the priority 90s plans, the 1991 action plan, the out of the blue into the future plan, the renew the blue plan, everything, single one of them had some kind of reference to revitalizing downtown. And so where are they now? Well, yes and no. So tonight, we're doing an update on the strategic plan. Next month, I'm going to do a town hall to bring updates about downtown. We actually did accomplish a lot of the things in some of those previous plans. I think that's worth celebrating. But in the last 2 years, especially, we've made significant progress on getting some of those things done. So I think you'll see actual action happen. Wait till we get to that here a second. I'll add some more commentary to that. So addition, we have balanced growth. So if we are going to grow, we want to do it in a meaningful way. We want to do it smart, make sure we're accomplishing some of those things. Community identity. What is it that makes Blue Springs Blue Springs? Why do people want to live here? Why do people want to have their kids go to school here? What is it about Blue Springs that makes us Blue Springs? Infrastructure is always a big one. We've had a lot of intention on infrastructure, especially the last couple of years. And so we'll talk about that. Community safety and well-being. So it's more than just crime prevention, but also that feeling of feeling safe when you're in the park or feeling safe when you walk down the street. But then also just mental and physical health in the community as well. And then finally, staff really kind of stepped up as we were going through conversations here. There were some things hanging out there about customer service, about what staff's relationship is to the community, what it looks like when a resident seeks services. And so they really wanted to add this sixth one here to making sure the organization supports staff, the organization gives them opportunities for growth, but then also to hold them accountable to providing service to residents in the community. So the first one is downtown revitalization. These are some of the objectives that we talked about. So to the questions we were getting here about more downtown stuff. So I think what has happened, this is my commentary, it's not reflective of any other elected official or city staff. Over the years, there's been a lot of attention to downtown, but I feel like it was individual stakeholders. So maybe there was the Historical Society really wanted to do something downtown, or downtown property owners really want to do something, but they didn't have a supportive city council, or the city council and the downtown property owners want to do something, but residents didn't think it made sense to spend money on property downtown or on infrastructure. And so the Priority 90s plan, which I see Fred in the audience here, there was a lot of attention to infrastructure downtown, and there was a lot of that had happened. And especially in the 90s and early 2000s, we saw us use CDBG dollars for intersections, for that stamped concrete, for sidewalks. So there's a lot of intentional spending on money providing infrastructure downtown. I think over the years, you've seen the city spend a lot of money in updating these buildings. The police department is a downtown building. City Hall is a downtown building. Those are millions of dollars from the city that's spent on specifically on a building downtown to improve that area. But what has happened, especially in the last few years with the downtown master plan that was passed in March of 2024, and then we had the implementation task force that kind of prioritized those things. We have a perfect storm of everything. We have downtown property owners and business owners that really want this to be successful. We have a supportive city council that all almost with unity want to get this done and quickly. And I think the success of areas like Lee Summit and other cities in Kansas has shown the residents what a downtown can look like when there is an intentional focus on making it better. And so it seems like everybody is very supportive of making this happen. And so that's why you've seen things like the bond issue last year that is actual money, which we haven't always had, with the intention of making downtown better. And so the streetscape is happening because there's millions of dollars supported by the residents to make that happen. The city council is supportive of doing things that we've never done before with parking and with the streetscape. We have business owners that are actively trying to make the downtown Blue Springs area and that organization successful. And so across the board, you have people wanting to get this done. So the things that are reflective right now that are currently happening, the downtown streetscape was already been planned. The city council has approved a plan that is actually being engineered right now. So it's taking it from the design phase of this is generally where we want the parking, this is generally how big we want the sidewalks, to the actual engineering of this is where a drive is going to be on Main Street. This is where the street light is going to be. And so that's happening right now. Once that is complete, you'll see construction start on the streetscape, which will be from 7 Highway to 15th Street, all the way down Main Street. Have 15-foot sidewalks on each side. You have angled parking on one side, parallel parking on the other, and it will be concrete roads. And so it's going to look, the physical structure of downtown Main Street, Blue Springs, will look different this time next year. And so construction will start, might not be completely finished next year. We're learning that now. And again, next month when I do another one of these, we'll have some more information. The other thing you'll see actively happening is the lumberyard property, which the city has owned for a long time. Again, we did an RFP process. The city selected a developer. We're currently in the process now of doing the finance agreement with that developer. I think we're pretty close in the next few months. So once that's done, again, you will see construction start on that property sometime next year. And that will take a couple-year process, but they'll be making progress on it. So that'll be a mixed-use development with retail on the Main Street side, with apartments, some density to allow more residents downtown. That usually attracts businesses that need that kind of flow of people to support their restaurant or their retail. And so that will actively happen next year. And then again, already budgeted, Central Park, again, is something that was in some of the previous downtown plans, to add a trail around the pond in Central Park, to add some equipment or a shelter so people can gather there. And so there is money in the community development block grant money to actually put the trail around the pond next year. So you'll see that happen next year. Yes, sir. Good question. So Central Park is just across the street here. So where the train depot is, it's as George has pointed out when we've done this a few other times this week, it's an undeveloped park, an underutilized park is the language they use. It's really just a completely undeveloped park. So there's a train depot and there's grass, and that's about all that's there right now. There's a pond that nobody knows is there, that nobody can see, but the plan will be, again, the plan's already in place. We have money to make it happen. We're just waiting on the engineering now to put a trail not around, but beside the pond. It will come back. And then over the next couple of years, you'll see reflected in the strategic plan, I think it says by 2028, is to every year kind of improve that a little bit. Add a shelter, add some park equipment, add places where people can gather and hang out. You've seen, like with Green Street and Lee Summit, the need for more green space for people to hang out and bring their family and bring their dog and be when you go get food or retail, come hang out and be somewhere. So did you have a question, Ms. Kay? A dog park on Central Park? Is that part of the plans? I don't remember that being specific a part of it. We can look at it. Maybe that was in one of the iterations of it. Yeah. So again, that's where we are right now. It's figuring out what equipment's going to go there exactly, what it's going to look like. That's where we are now. So that will be a more phased approach, just because it's really because of the money. We have enough money in the CDBG budget to put the trail around, and then the next year we'll do some of those other things. So those are decisions that can still be made. Some other things that are intentional about the downtown master plan, or about the strategic plan, is just reflection of those things in the downtown master plan. So you saw the city buy the church property. We'll probably do an RFP on that to try to make some of those things in the master plan happen, get some private investment of that, see if we can get some ways to make those things happen sooner. A lot of other ideas in the master plan about redevelop or reuse of properties, making sure the right tenants are there and what that looks like moving forward. And so the master plan is a forward-looking document, so it may not reflect exactly what things look like now, but it gives us an idea of how to move forward. And so somebody asked me the other day is why the city buys the church property to just turn around and sell it. Well, that's because we have an idea of what we want to use that property for, and we can be a catalyst for that investment, a catalyst for that change, which may not happen as quickly if it just sits there with the other property owner. So any questions on downtown while we're here? Yes, sir. That's a good question. I should probably stop using acronyms. My wife, who is in the audience, tells me to do that all the time. It's a request for proposal. So oftentimes what will happen is if the city owns property, we will put out to the development community a request for proposal, which means we say, we have this property. We are requesting you to give us ideas about what to do with it. And so with the RFP, the request for proposal for the lumber yard, we had people submit design ideas, and then we selected the one we liked and said, that's what we want it to look like. Please build that here. And so this one, I don't believe they've requested any tips yet. Again, that's what's being worked out now, is the financing, the money. If they want incentives, what ones do they want? What is the city willing to do? All of those type of things. Yes, sir. Good point. So the request for a proposal usually has some guidelines. some parameters and said, the city owns this property. We want to do something like this. Can you give us some ideas to specifically make that happen? So yes, it would say something like, we want a mixed use property that has retail, that has X number of residents, that kind of thing. So we utilize that a lot, especially with city owned property. In fact, some of our codes require it depending on, so we're not just, again, making the decision. We get some ideas from multiple sources. So somebody gave me a flag that there's some questions online here. How will drinking downline be re-regulated if approved, and how will drunk driving be minimized? So there is no guidelines for drinking downtown right now. I believe what that question is probably connected to is there was some news last week about the intent to develop an entertainment district. As happens pretty often, the actual attempt is different than what's reported in the news. So that type of thing is what the city council was looking at. We wanted the ability for somebody to be able to buy, let's say, a drink at Brewers and then walk across the street to the pizza shop and get pizza and be able to leave the premises. Liquor laws in Missouri require you to stay on the premises with an open container. And so something that would allow you to leave the premises and essentially make the downtown area a district where you're really coming to downtown to get food and drink and entertainment and not just to a single location. And so we're working out now if that's possible, what that looks like if it is, what the legal requirements are. So right now there's no specific plan on that. We're researching that now. We've directed staff to give us some information in the next 90 days to see what's even possible. That's a good point too. If I hear questions from the audience, I will repeat them so you guys online can hear them as well. So good point. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, any other questions about downtown, either online or here in the audience? I know it's a big topic. Again, next month, I believe it's the 13th, November 13th. We're going to do another one of these here in person and on Facebook. They'll specifically provide updates for some of those projects. So again, we're working out now exactly what the streetscape will look like, the physical design. We'll probably have some more information on some other properties. So hopefully we'll have some of that worked out. Yes, at least have it started by the end of 26. That's what the performance measure for. So that will happen. I don't believe so. As most of you know, there's a lot of things that happen downtown over the course of a year. And there's a big thing called the World Cup that's happening next year. And so we have to be mindful of the Fall Fun Fest and the impact that the construction will have on that, on the World Cup and any events that happen with that. So we'll start it next year. It may not get complete next year. But I think we'll hit that metric. So you're already reading ahead, keeping us accountable, and I like it. Yeah. Sometimes people don't believe it until they see the bulldozer drive down the street. So that'll happen. It might be Councilmember Brummel that's driving it, but it'll get done. So, okay. So then let's move on to the next strategic priority, which is not any less important than downtown, and that's balanced growth. So this is reflective over lots of comments that were received, the feedback we got through this process. And that has to do with housing, that has to do with the parks, that has to do with retail and development. And so again, we want to make sure we're doing it in a way that's smart, intentional, and reflective of what we heard the community say. So these objectives reflect that. What balanced growth has looked like practically, especially in the last couple of years, is these types of plans. So the downtown master plan was passed in March of 2024. This strategic plan was again started in 24 and passed a couple of months ago this year. We're submitting an RFP, a request for proposal, for the comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan we haven't done since 2014, and that is a document that shows that especially the development community, but also you as residents, people in the region, what the city council, what the elected officials in the city as a government or as an organization expects land use to look like in the city limits. So what do we want this property to be? Do we want it to be housing? What type of housing? Do we want it to be retail? What type of retail? And so that's a document that hasn't been updated in 10 years. Yes, sir. We've been, he said that's a state recommendation to have that done every 10 years. We've been pretty consistent with that. And so we're at a good time to make sure that happens. So I think 2014. So maybe we're a year delayed, but we're right at it. We're close. So the strategic plan or the comprehensive plan is part of that. That's happening now too. We also are in the middle of a parks master plan. This is our second parks master plan. There was a lot of success with the last one. They kind of set the standard, especially for us as a community. Some of you will remember what the parks looked like before the first parks tax, where literally we had such a backlog where some things were going to have to get shut down or equipment removed. And so that, again, helps us be intentional about how we want to grow. So as the city council, as the parks department, we can just put parks up everywhere. But if we have feedback from you as residents, where you want the parks, what type of parks you want, what assets you think are missing in the community, we can prioritize our spending and our decision making. Will downtown be more handicap accessible? Yes. So currently, that's part of something that we, I guess, learned, part of something that we were intentional about with the streetscape plan is what downtown Main Street looks like right now is not ADA accessible to the point that's required by law even. And so some of the things with the bump outs and the parking, some of the things with design will specifically address and be ADA compliant with the new plan. So it will be much better accessible overall. It'll be compliant with the ADA legally. And so it will look better specifically. Is it going to streamed or YouTube? So this will be on YouTube later. It's not usually streamed on YouTube live. So that's what we use Facebook Live for the live ones, and then it's posted on YouTube later. So yes, ma'am. So you mean, yeah. So the Mid-America Regional Council is a planning organization. They don't have any regulatory oversight to what the city does. So they can make suggestions. Usually they have experts, professionals that help with the plans and the studies, but they can't require us to do anything. What they do often do, which affects what we do, is they are a financial organization as well. They are the, Roger's there, and so you're going to know it. They are the regional something organization that any federal money, regional planning organization? RPC, okay. I feel like there was an O in there. Yes, so any federal money that comes to the Kansas City area has to go through the Mid-America Regional Council. They are designated literally by an act of Congress to receive that money and to distribute that money. So if we want access to grants, specifically federal grants that have to do with transportation, that have to do with infrastructure, it goes through that organization. So sometimes they can have some influence in how we do that because we want to access those dollars. So, but otherwise they have no oversight in what the city does. Absolutely. So some of the other things you'll see, the objectives in the balanced growth, housing is a big thing. We want to identify if there's some gaps in the housing. Things like apartments, I'm not opposed to them in general. We just want to make sure in the right places. And so that's really the issues we've had in the past is if a developer proposes to put some super dense apartments right next to some estate housing, and usually then the neighbors get a little concerned about that. So it's about being smart about it. It's about being balanced about it. Maybe there are some types of housing that we don't have that would allow for people straight out of college, that would allow for early professionals to live in Blue Springs, people with small families or even bigger families. So that's what we want to identify is there a gap, a market that we're not meeting in our housing inventory? So don't have the answer for that. That's what we're going to be intentional about doing, is exploring that. Also, so there's been this thing out in the community for a while that Blue Springs is landlocked. And so I would challenge that idea. There are gaps between us and Lee Summit. There are gaps between us and Grain Valley. There are gaps between us and Independence. So just talking about infill, we have a lot of opportunity for growth for both industrial, for residential, for commercial. We have some opportunity there. There's also some intention and some ability to grow south and east, which is why you see lots of growth there now. A lot of housing is happening in that part of town. And so that's because that's the simple way to grow right now. But we want to be intentional about how that looks. So you'll see intend to annex some plans about what we could annex in the future, what that might look like, what the use would be. And so making sure we have that in mind. Yes, sir. Yeah, so anywhere that the city would seek to annex in the future, we have the ability to provide service. I think is the answer to the question. So your question was, do we have utilities in any areas that's undeveloped in city limits? I don't know that we have. So you're saying like a piece of green space now, whether we could provide, yeah, anywhere that's within city limits, we can provide services to. We have sewer, we have water, we have police, those things. And then I would say even beyond that, the NID to the south was done intentional to grow sewer capacity to the south part of town. That's how Adams Dairy Parkway was able to develop. That's how those houses are getting built down there. There is, if you live on the further south part of town, you're in a different water district. And so you actually pay water to Water District 13, not to the city of Blue Springs. They provide water and you pay them. The experience, we've talked about this a lot. I think my last to the city's address is the experience of residents in Blue Springs can be pretty broad, because if you live south of Wyatt Road, you vote for the mayor of Blue Springs, you vote for a District 3 council member, but you go to Lee Summit schools, you pay a different water bill, and you have a different fire department. So when you call 911, somebody else shows up. When you pay your water bill, you're not paying to Blue Springs, but you still have, Blue Springs representation. Same thing in the northeast part of town. Your kids go to Grand Valley schools. And so we have hundreds of kids that go to Lee Summit schools. We have hundreds of kids that go to Grand Valley schools, but live in the city limits of Blue Springs. And so we need to make sure we're involving all of those stakeholders as we do this growth and intention. So we've been intentional about doing that. Yes, sir. So what Roger said is the real opportunity to redo to downtown, which takes me to my next point, Roger. Great segue. And so it's not just downtown, though. So the joke I've been making, and it must be a poor joke because not everybody laughs, but the big growth in Blue Springs was in the 70s. We were like top of the whole country in the 70s. They were handing out building permits like candy. And so some of you that were born in the 70s may be surprised to realize that was about 50 years ago, 50 plus years ago. And so some of those properties are starting to show their age, and maybe redevelopment makes more sense. Maybe there's an opportunity to have redevelopment look different than new development, than new construction. And so we're going to be intentional about finding ways to maybe make that easier, to maybe adjust the standards to better fit what that might look like. Because it's going to be more expensive and maybe more difficult to redevelop a property versus building green space brand new. Also part of growth. Sorry, Roger, go ahead. Yes, absolutely. If we want to be very intentional about making sure the comprehensive plan is successful and reflective, then yes, we can find ways to make the zoning and the development opportunities meet that specifically. How that also lurks with balanced growth too is also with the Parks Department. So there's not a strategic priority in the plan that specifically addresses parks, but parks are kind of woven throughout all of these. Part of balanced growth is making sure there are parks available to all parts of town. Right now, there's no developed park south of Moreland School Road. I think Keystone's probably about the furthest south park, and it's right there around Daniel Young. Southwest Park is starting to have construction next year. 12th Street will connect Southgate and Wyatt Road to provide for that opportunity. And so that will be the first park south of Moreland School Road. There's also Roscoe Ryder Park that's undeveloped on the southeast part of town. Right now, there's no money behind actually making that happen, but it gives us an opportunity to develop that specifically. Is there a focus in the plan to expand single-family housing and reduce growth of multifamily? No, the plan does not reflect specifically a type of housing. What the plan reflects is looking into what type of housing we're missing in our inventory. So there's always support for single family. I think every member of the city council will support some type of single family growth. Depends on what and where the location is for multifamily, how much support it gets from the residents and the community. So again, it usually depends on how close is a multifamily development to your residential development. And so we will continue to look at where are the gaps and where does it make sense to put any type of housing development, whether it's big estate homes or residential, just residential single family as well. Am I missing another one? I'm getting lots of looks that I missed a question, but I don't see anything. That's the last one I see. Oh, we're planning to rate restroom facilities at parks. That's what I missed. So yes, you saw, I think it was just this week, Rotary Park got new restrooms. There was another park that got new restrooms this year. I don't remember which one. So yes, there's a plan. So the parks master plan will reflect that as well. There's still some sections on the website that reflect the last parks tax that was passed. Part of passing that parks tax was to tell you how we're going to spend that money. And so there's still some plans on the website that reflect what we expect to do next year. I think that ends in, I want to say 2028. And so that's where this new parks master plan will take over. So I can't tell you exactly which one's standing here, just to tell you restrooms are being replaced. Rotary Park just got replaced literally this week. I was in the new one at Ward Park with the kids a couple of weeks ago. They look great. They're easy to access. They're clean. Provides a lot of new opportunity for that. So yes, there is some intention to address restroom facilities in parks as well. So any questions about growth, development, how that's looking here in the audience? Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Yes, Roger. 100%, yeah. Yes. It does look better in the last 8 to 10 years, specifically. The having money to maintain some of those things has helped. So part of what, so you saw in the mission statement, there was a term that said sustainable growth. And so that word sustainable is often a loaded term. People have an idea in their mind what they think that means. So it is being a good steward of the environment, and that's something we want to be mindful of as well. But more than that, it's being sustainable about exactly these type of things, being sustainable about our finances, being sustainable about infrastructure. We had a backlog on parks that we've had to catch up on. So I had my meeting with the Parks Open Space Master Plan people this week, and they had a benchmarking of other communities of our size, and our capital investment in our parks is dramatically higher than some of similar sizes. And that's largely because we've been very intentional about catching up on the backlog of capital improvements. And so, yeah, so what Roger says, there's a national standard of park space per population. I found that in the Priority 90s plan, that back then they were looking for 9,000, or I don't remember, it was a square foot for every 9,000 residents, something like that. It doesn't seem right. But yes, the Parks Department is mindful of that standard moving forward. The Blue Springs Parks and Recreation Department received an award as Agency of the Year last year from the Missouri Parks and Recreation Association. There's something called a gold medal, gold something that they're trying to achieve, and that's like the national designation. That's a big deal. And so they're trying to achieve that as well. I think go well along the way. So Parks Department does a great job. There's more. So the community identity is the third one, and the Parks Department is reflected in that a lot. The idea, as we got feedback from the residents, as we talked amongst ourselves as elected officials, what we heard from staff is we need to find ways to communicate what makes Blue Springs Blue Springs. Why would people want to live here? Why would you want to shop here? Why would you want to have your kids go to school here? What is it that we want to communicate with the region? That why Blue Springs is a great place to live and work and play. And so we identified that as a strategic priority of community identity. So some of it's just as simple as making our website maybe more accessible and easy to use. It's a little clunky right now, and so finding information is difficult. It's sometimes as simple as you guys may have seen these communications from Brian Spano in the communications department, having it be a little more modern, a little more updated, to be consistent throughout all communication, whether it's something from the Parks Department or something from the communications department or something from the city council, that it looks the same. So there's this standard identity that's called a style guide is what we've been using for that. It's even things as simple as providing opportunities for residents to volunteer in the community. Things like the Green Up the Blue, we've done 3 of those, had our most recent one a couple weeks ago. And so it provides a way for residents to connect to the community, to have some identity in the community, some buy-in. And so those type of opportunities, finding ways to do that better are important as well. So some of the things you'll see, performance measures, getting the website launched, getting volunteer opportunities. Communication is a hard one. When I was first elected in 2010, we had 2 newspapers that were physically in the city limits of Blue Springs. The Blue Springs Journal, and then the Examiner had an office here. Well, now the Examiner sort of writes about us every once in a while when there's something important happens. And so it's become difficult for the city as an organization, for the government to communicate with residents. You've seen social media be used for that a lot, but I think everyone's aware of the pitfalls that come with using social media in that way. And so we're going to try to be intentional about pushing a lot of things to the website, making sure it's a single source of information, making it consistent and all of those things. So finding better ways to communicate with residents, finding better ways for residents to buy into the community, finding better ways to communicate the identity of Blue Springs with the region. We want to be very intentional about that. I think that will reflect well in the community overall. And we feel like that's what we heard you say as well, is we want Blue Springs, we want to know why we're here. What's the culture of Blue Springs? What's the identity? And so we're going to be intentional about that in the next few years as well. Any questions about that? Make sure I'm not missing anything. So the next one is infrastructure. So that's been a big thing for Blue Springs residents for as long as I can remember. So I think every citizen survey we've ever done has put, somebody's advancing that. Thank you, George. Every citizen survey we've ever done has said that streets and sidewalks and traffic congestion is the number one thing the city should be focused on. And that has been true for varying degrees over the years, but we've been very intentional about it in the last couple of years. We had a bond issue that was passed in August of last year, $40 million that specifically addressed infrastructure projects throughout the community. $15 million of that was straight street maintenance in the neighborhood streets where you live. And so what we anticipated using that money for last August was to get about 35 miles of street overlay from that money. That was the estimates we had at the time. Well, we spent about $7 million of that money last year and got 52 miles out of it. And then we're going to spend the remaining $8 million plus the additional money we spend in the budget annually and some other bigger infrastructure projects. We'll spend about $12 million, I want to say, next year, and we'll get 84 miles out of that. So did a video update on that project last month. So you'll see 84 miles of overlay. You'll see some of the bigger collector streets like R.D. Mize, like South Outer Road, like 19th Street will all get repaved next year. And so again, that is currently in design right now to get the final budget and the final streets solidified for next year. We're doing that bid now. Well, we're doing that planning now, so then the bid can go out so construction can start earlier next year than it did this year. Yes, sir, Roger. We've had a capital improvement budget consistent with the charter for a long time. What we've done differently recently is, especially where street maintenance is concerned, having a plan for that. So So I'm not repeating your question. So what Roger said, for those of you that aren't here in the audience, is that we need to have a capital improvement plan moving forward, and that's being done better now. So yes, we have a 20-year plan. We've also been hesitant, I think, in the past to communicate with residents what streets we're planning on paving in the coming years. And so I don't know why we've done that. We want to share that so you have expectations. One of the things I'm fond of saying is that the frustration happens when expectations don't meet reality. And so when you know what to expect and we actually do it, that's the key to satisfaction amongst residents. So also, if we tell you what we're going to do and we don't do it, that causes some frustration. So we want to be intentional about that. Two could be complete by. So what Roger said was that's why Missouri Department of Transportation is so successful, is because they put a sign up that says we're going to complete it by August of 26, and then they actually do it. unless they don't do it, and then they just take the sign down, I guess. But that's all right. We're going to do it. We're already in process of getting it done. You'll see 84 miles of street overlay happen next year. There's other infrastructure projects as well. So that street maintenance is important. We have a wastewater facility that we share with Grain Valley. There are some new federal EPA regulations that we have to meet. And so for those of you that pay attention to the city council meeting, all 10 of you, we had a sewer rate study and what that's going to look like moving forward, and the money to allow for capacity, and then also meeting the EPA standards. So looking at ways to do that. We even found out, speaking of Missouri Department of Transportation, we were the only city in the region that weren't meeting with them regularly. And so we started doing that, and that's already provided some benefits to make sure when we have an issue, we know who to talk to. We meet with them consistently. Yes, sir, Roger. So what Roger said is that's where the Mid-America Regional Council can come in, help us provide access to funds and planning. Actually, we had a congressman at City Hall today, and we made that pitch to him as well, try to get some federal money to help fund some of that. It is a federal requirement, and so the term we use in government is it's an unfunded mandate. They're requiring us to meet some new standard and not providing any money to do it, which adds some strain on our already tight budgets. But we're going to find a way to meet it. So we'll be intentional about how that gets done. Infrastructure also means the Parks Department too. So again, Southwest Park, developing that, making sure that that master plan reflects what the community wants us to do, being intentional about those infrastructure needs as well. Trying to see if I'm missing anything. So even things like a design standard, things like facilities for City Hall, whether we need to update some facilities so they are able to provide the services you as residents expect. Just being intentional about all of that. You can see the performance measures there in the document. I think I've addressed most of them. So any questions about infrastructure before I move on to the next one? Yes, sir. So what we've been intentional about doing recently is sidewalk infill. So I think it was last year was the first. Oh, what was the question? The question was, does the plan include sidewalks? Last year was the first time we had done a sidewalk infill program. There are gaps in the sidewalks that weren't there. I think we spent about $250,000, provided a mile of sidewalks, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that was like 20 projects that maybe the sidewalk ended at this property and then started at that property. So there was a gap. And so that happened last year, and it's budgeted again this year. So we're already doing some of that, being intentional about making sure sidewalks. You've also seen, let me do one more thing. I've also seen the Mid-America Regional Council. We had a matching grant for them to provide sidewalks on 7 Highway. They already did it on the north side from Pink Hill. The next project will go across 70 down to 40 Highway, I believe. No. Okay, so sidewalks along 7 Highway, they'll continue to go south, I believe, to 40 Highway. And so to 40 Highway, yep. And so it was a matching grant, so the city put in half of that. Mid-America Regional put in half. That construction was... Oh, okay. Wasn't, but yeah. Sorry, say that again, Pat. So it'll be all on one side. I mean, that the designing is happening right now. So the plan is to have it on it's on the east side. No, construction. So the part on the north part of time is done. The Pink Hill to, I think, Jefferson is done. There should be sidewalks all the way on the north side. This will then extend it from Jefferson to 40 Highway, I believe. And so that should start next year sometime. They wanted to start it this year, but the planning and engineering got delayed, so they're going to wait till next year. So yes, more sidewalks, more walkable. With the infill program and what MoDOT is doing, there'll be more sidewalks than there's ever been in Blue Springs. So intentional about that as well. Next priority is community safety and well-being. So this is, we're here in the police department building. This is more than about just crime prevention. It's also just about that feeling of safety as well. When crime is generally flat in Blue Springs. That's a good thing. We're not having dramatic increases in anything. That doesn't mean we accept those numbers as just what they're going to be. Thank you, George. But we also, we have to be mindful of that. There was a bit of a bump after COVID. I think a lot of communities experienced. So we're still trying to address some of those things. So we'll continue to work on reducing crime. But it's regardless of what crime is, it's your feeling of safety that really is the reality, right? We could tell you all day the crime statistics, but if you don't feel safe walking in the park or you don't feel safe walking down the street, that won't really matter to you. So, yes, sir, Ms. K. So your question was about transportation. No, there's no current. So what the city does have is the OATS transportation. So we do provide transportation for seniors and disabled individuals. We have not found the need or the request for other transportation, public transportation in Blue Springs. So we did have a KCATA service, a bus that went from here downtown. At the last time it was evaluated, there was about 6 people riding it with any regularity, and we were spending it was $12,000 a person. We were spending $80,000 annually for those 6 people to ride the bus, and so that's why we instead put that money in the OATS program, which is very utilized by our seniors in the community, and disabled individuals in the community. So there's no specific plan for additional public transportation right now. If that's something we hear from residents, a need that's not being met, it's definitely something we could talk about, but the strategic plan does not reflect that. Now, that being said, I see Mr. Kradoff in there, who's on the KCATA board, so give me a second. That being said, there are other plans being talked about in the region. I was at a meeting last week. The KCATA is talking about what that looks like from a regional standpoint and not specifically for our municipality, and so we'll be part of those conversations as well. Yes, Byron. Yes. Yeah. So Byron Kradoff, he's a planning commissioner here in Blue Springs. He also serves on the KCATA commission as a representative for Jackson County, appointed by the county executive. So what he was just saying, for those of you who can't hear him here online, is KCATA is having a lot of discussion right now. They'd like to come to Blue Springs and talk to us about what the benefits for the community could be. I think that's reflective. I would agree. There's a lot of conversations happening right now. Mhm. So Byron said there's a lot of opportunity discussion having, even for Blue Springs specifically, especially with World Cup coming. There's a lot of transportation discussion happening, and there's some benefits that Blue Springs have. So always glad to have conversation. If you want to let me know who we need to talk to, we can do that. I've been in on those meetings, and like I said, I went to I don't know what was it that was happening last Friday. I don't know what they called it. It was the meeting where we had the conversation about regional transportation. So yeah, there are some discussions happening. There's just no intention in the strategic plan. So, yes. So Roger said to talk about the drone program. So one of the objectives in the community safety and well-being strategic priority. So the use of technology is important for what the police department does. It does not replace people, but it is supplement the work that they do. So one of the performance measures you see here in this strategic priority is for the police department to have 2 sworn officers for every 1,000 residents. And that right now, there are 61,000 plus residents in Blue Springs. So if we had 2 sworn officers every 1,000, we'd have 122 officers. Right now, we have 103 sworn officers budgeted, and we have about 5 vacancies. So we have 98 officers right now. So that's a big jump in 5 years to try to get 20 more officers. But it's a bit of a stretch goal, but we think we can achieve it. Last year, about this time, we had about 18 vacancies in the police department. So just in the last year, we've hired 15 people. You saw Kansas City. I think they had 96 officers in the last academy that just started in Kansas City. They're about 300 officers down. So there is more attention to the industry right now as well. The state has also they have a Blue Shield program where they're trying to invest in public safety. And so we're going to try to achieve that. But as Roger was saying about the use of technology, there's something called the Drone as a First Responder program that the city's been researching for a couple of years. They're already doing it in places like Olathe. I think Kansas City may have just started it too. So this will be when you call 911, a drone may get to you before a police officer does. And so that allows them to see the scene and see what's happening, but also could even talk to you. If somebody needs CPR, you could have a drone telling you how to do CPR on somebody. So something that's being worked on now. But more than public safety and more than crime prevention, this strategic priority also addresses things to address our vulnerable population, those that social services in Blue Springs. So I've said it before, I've said it on Facebook, I'll say it here. Blue Springs has every resource of any other community in the region for unhoused individuals, for social services. The problem is they're not being connected very well. We have organizations throughout the community that are doing great things. We have churches, we have nonprofits. CSL has a location out here. They have resources for rent assistance and those type of things. We have comprehensive mental health has co-responders with our police officers. So they actually go to the calls and provide that as well. And so all of that is happening, but it's all kind of happening on its own, by itself. The churches are doing things by themselves. The nonprofits are doing things by themselves. The government's doing stuff by themselves. We need to find a way to coordinate that in a meaningful way. So if somebody needs resources, they have an easy way to connect to those. And so we're going to try to be more intentional about doing that. The government can serve a purpose in coordinating those resources, and we're going to look at that as well. Okay, I see Oates. Somebody made a comment, Oates is not enough, perhaps a transportation survey. And then the Blue Springs needed more pedestrian friendly. So there is a lot of intention to make it walkable and pedestrian friendly. As we talked about all the sidewalks, some of that we also have to work with MoDOT because the two main roads through Blue Springs, 7 Highway and 40 Highway, are Missouri Department of Transportation controlled. And so we can't just put a crosswalk across 7 Highway anywhere we want to. We have to get approval from them, and they control their roads pretty heavy-handedly. So we need to make sure that we're continue to work with them, have that relationship, but try to find better ways to make it pedestrian friendly. And we do lots of citizen surveys. We did with this master plan or the strategic plan. Not a lot of comments about transportation, but again, as Byron mentioned, always open to having those conversations and what that might look like in the community. Any questions on safety or well-being, mental health, physical health, those type of things? Okay. The last one's a little bit easier from a community standpoint, but it's just as important for you as a resident. George, I got it. Thank you. I see you get up and then I know I missed something. So just as important for you as a resident is how you connect to the city as an organization. So the city is, again, not just boundaries and city limits, it's an organization as well. And so as staff was looking at the feedback we were getting from residents, as the elected officials were looking at that, we want to be, staff want to be very intentional about providing a good quality service to you as residents. So that means for those that work for the city, making sure they have access to professional growth, that we as elected officials support them to make sure they have opportunities to learn how to do things better, that they have technology and tools to do their job, making sure that they have what they need to provide service to you as residents. And so that's what most of this reflects, making sure that departments are working together. I know there was a concern about park safety at some point amongst the park commission. And so we had some parks employees working with police department employees to try to have a plan and strategy moving forward to make sure our parks were safe. And so things like that, some interdepartment collaboration, encouraging that from the elected official side, from the administration side, was something we wanted to be very intentional about, making sure processes make sense. When you come to the city and you're trying to get a service, we want it to be a smooth process and finding ways to improve and better that situation overall. So not a lot there from a regular standpoint. It's more an internal strategic priority, but know that we are being intentional about making sure when you as a resident need services, it's going to be done in a quality and meaningful way. So, any questions about organizational health? So we are right at an hour, which is exactly what we wanted to be. So what's next? As I mentioned before, it's this accountability document. So the city staff is going to have an implementation board. They're going to make sure that we are achieving these things and we're intentional about achieving them. So you can be confident that when you look at this document, that some of those have been accomplished. We'll do an annual update of some kind so the staff can share with elected officials that we are achieving those things. And so that's what we'll be doing internally here, having some sort of annual review, a way to track progress, to make sure we're meeting timelines in a meaningful way. So you, as residents, can expect that we're going to make progress on this plan. That's not just going to be, as Pat said, sit on a shelf somewhere. We're actually going to achieve the things that it says we're going to achieve. And hopefully, the idea is it provides a better quality of life for you as residents, that we are, again, doing the things we said we were going to do. So I'm going to read this. This is George's line, my line. So George Schmitz is our assistant to the city administrator. I want to give him credit. He's here in the audience. He was the one that did most of the backside work of making this happen, that kept it on track, that kept us as elected officials on track. He did a great job of putting this together. And so this was the George's words here, that this shared vision we've built together will serve not only as a guide, but as a commitment that we will grow intentionally, we will act collaboratively, and we will strive to deliver results that make residents proud to call Blue Springs home. So that is my presentation. What questions do you have? George, or Roger. So, Roger, you're going to have to define your terminology. You say a PERC chart? That's an engineer term. Okay, that makes sense. Are you saying PER, a PER chart, or a K? PRT, a PERT chart. So Roger says this is like a PERT chart. For those engineers that are listening on Facebook, we can check these boxes and make sure we're meeting them as we go through the project. Yeah. Mr. Pat. Yes, we want people to come downtown. That is correct. So the park, Central Park, has a restroom facility planned. If we are able to develop the master plan in the way that is reflected for like the church property, there's a public building there that could have a restroom. So it would be public facilities. Theoretically, city hall's open during the day. You would have access to that. Police department's open during the day. You'd have access to that. So. Oh, at night, yeah. At night, it would depend on what the event is and that kind of thing. So, yeah. When we have events downtown, usually the police department is open, like National Night Out, which was a parking lot across the street. The PD building was open for restrooms at the time. For people that are just going to restaurants and that kind of thing, I think the expectation is they'd probably use the facilities there, but the park does have plans. Fred, did you have a question? Yeah. So well, hold on, Fred. I mean, there's a lot of silence right here. So Fred seems in the audience. He was city administrator of Blue Springs for a long time. He's asking about things beyond road work. What are kind of the grand vision ideas? And so I'll get to that, but ask your second question. So Fred's other comment was having some design standards for downtown. So get to the first one, some of the bigger things. So yes, I will say me as mayor is very focused less on those bigger things and more on the things that I've heard the residents say we've been missing for years, which are focus on our streets, focus on public safety, focus on economic development in the sense that we need restaurants that we don't have, full service restaurants and that kind of thing. I don't think that opts us out of some of the bigger things you're talking about. And so I don't want to be disparaging of those who have come before me, which would include you as well. Sometimes, like the out of the blue plan was very forward thinking. Things like we need a trolley system throughout the city, which isn't a bad idea. It's just very difficult to achieve. And so this, I feel like the strategic plan is balanced in the sense on it does a good job looking for opportunities for the bigger things, but also focusing on the things that need to get done in the next few years. I think where we have opportunity to do what you're suggesting are just like you said, the property like across by the lake. There's 200 acres, 100 plus acres there that we could do something bigger that's going to require a big development. And so those are the types of things we're looking at too. But even things like the golf course and the conference center, it's now been 30 years that those have been utilized. And so they're even re-looking at whether we still need a conference center or what that might look like. And so finding ways to make sure we're doing things intentional. I don't have any particular plans to bring a theme park to Blue Springs, although I probably have most of the city council would be the most supportive of something like that. But those are we're just making sure we have a balanced approach to it. So the other thing about design standards, so I think that's reflected in the balanced growth to have some design standards. Now, it wouldn't be specifically for downtown. I think residential design standards is what we're talking about the most. But there's no specific plan to have every building downtown look the same that I'm aware of. We haven't discussed that. So if that's something you think we're missing, it's something we can have conversations of. So yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. So Roger is chair of our MCRC board. There are incentives to like facade grants, which is what the bank used, ways that you can use incentives to make the property, improve the property, which is what the bank used to make that happen. And so Roger wants to find ways to expand that even more so that there's opportunities for property owners downtown to make their buildings look better designed, more consistent. So. Yeah, we've been trying to find ways as elected officials to engage with Mark Moore because they have such strong control over those funding moving forward. So we'll continue to try and find ways to do that. So I want to be mindful of time. It's 7:10 now. I mean, I can say with those of you that are in the audience here on Facebook, we can start shutting that down. If there are any other questions, so I have an email address that's mayor@bluespringsgov.com. So you can send questions to that. That one's easier than spelling my last name, so that's why we did that. City council members are very responsive as well, all 6 of them. So reach out to your city council member, reach out to me if you've got questions. Again, we hope that this document is reflective of what you can expect for the next several years, and our intention is to make it happen. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for listening on Facebook, and look forward to talking with you soon.